Hi, counselors. I hope everyone's having a great week so far. I am responding to our discussion board for the week about Hurricane Katrina and my response and my thoughts on the article and what it entailed. Um, my initial thoughts, of course, I felt disgusted. I was very angry about how the country handled it. It's not like I didn't know. I mean, I remember it happening before, but when you read it and you see it again after all this time, it's a cruel reminder that some people don't get treated fairly. And I do think this was an instance where people of poverty were not treated fairly. Um, as far as whether this should be a discussion or not, absolutely. There was a lot of discussion about it when it was going on, and of course, a lot of it was coming from a place of anger and bitterness and hatred because people were suffering. And when you're in a situation where you feel like you're not being treated fairly, you think of all the reasons why. And many blacks did feel like it was because of race. The article spoke on this, and initially, I can say when it happened, years ago, that's kind of what I thought too. But, after reading the article and thinking about it, I think it was more of a poverty issue. Um, because I don't want to say in poverty, but I guess that's really what it is. I've been on the poor end of the spectrum, and I know what it feels like, and it does feel different. The government does kind of treat you like you're just another one of those poor people. I remember standing in lines with my mom to get the boxes from the government with the peanut butter and the fruit and cheese and things like that because we didn't have enough, at home. I remember sometimes worrying about lights. I remember, eating boxes of macaroni and cheese for dinner. And, you feel and you are treated somewhat like just another poor person, especially going to social services and sitting in those lines. I mean, you rarely see white people in those lines, or I never did. That's, other than my mom. But it kind of makes you wonder, is it about race? But I think it is more about poverty because a lot of times it seems like if you do what you're supposed to do or if you would make some changes in your life, you wouldn't be poor. And that's not always the case. My mother had a mental disability and she was not able to work because of it. And so it wasn't that she chose not to, like she just didn't want to, she couldn't. And in turn, that put a strain on our family. So I think we don't always think about the reasons why people are in the situations that they're in. We just judge them based on our own situations. And so with the people in Katrina, we don't know why they were poor. We don't, it's really not our place to know. But I think the reaction that our country, gave to it was that we'll get there when we get there. They've been poor this long, they'll be all right. And that's not fair. And, I think that regardless of what your class situation is, you should be treated equally. I think about the most recent hurricane we've had, Hurricane Sandy, and it's like the response was immediate. I remember the president being on TV, even through the campaign, he kind of stopped what he was doing just to go and see about those people, and there's still being fundraisers held now to help them out. Churches and businesses are still trying to help, those people who lost so much. And I don't remember seeing the same response with Katrina until after the fact. It wasn't until people started making a big deal about the race that seems like, the president kind of jumped on it. And that's not fair either. Um, I kind of said already, I view this as a poverty thing. And I, feel like if it was a different area, the response would have been a lot faster. People who have money, um, can pay for their own, you know, things that have to be fixed. They can pay for their own houses to be rebuilt. They can afford to restart, and these people couldn't. And so I think there was also a time where they kind of had to figure out how they were going to help this large amount of people. So, I guess in the president's defense, we don't know what it's like to be in charge when there's a tragedy. And it's easy for us to say what should have been done or what could have been done, but, we weren't there. But regardless, 9 days is too long. And the powers that be have always got to consider what to do when things like this happen. And so I think maybe that's why with Sandy there was more of an immediate response. Um, my cultural identity the question is, does it affect the way I perceive this event? I believe it does because, as I said earlier, I've been on the poor end and I'm not rich now by any means, but I know what it's like to go without, and I know what it feels like, and I know how people look at you when you walk in the store with food stamps, and how people view you when you have a Medicaid card. And there is a stereotype or a judgment there that, oh, he or she just doesn't want to work, and that's not always the case. So I think before we judge, we need to ask and find out people's reasons and views on things before we just assume that it's a lack of care or effort or just being plain lazy. And that's what the article said, that some, I guess higher ups felt like the people should have moved faster, and then the people who were in it felt like if we could have, we would have. Um, so again, I think there was just a large miscommunication across the country, and we need to do better about that. So those are my thoughts, and I look forward to hearing from you.